From McLennan Park to Spy Pond, from Poets Corner to the Mystic River, we have Arlington covered. We're your neighbors, a friend you can turn to, giving you stories that count from people who care, dedicated, determined, dependable. This is ACMi News.
Good evening and welcome to this New Year's edition of ACMi News. I'm Jeff Barn. Tonight we take a look back at the stories that helped shape the year 2021, a historic and very trying year in our history, to say the very least. And we are here at beautiful Spy Pond for this newscast because backdrops simply don't get more beautiful than this. All right, let's get started with a story that took place in mid-January 2021, when a culinary program at a regional vocational high school partnered with a local nonprofit to salvage food waste and turn it into delicacies for area families to enjoy. ACMi's field production coordinator, Anim Osmani, had that story.
FoodLink, the community-based organization from Arlington, has been rescuing food waste and getting it to thousands of families in Massachusetts. FoodLink has about 50 community partnerships in the eastern region of Mass, but a recent and new partnership with the local regional technical school provides greater food salvation and a new experience for both FoodLink and the students involved.
Our mission is to increase environmental sustainability and alleviate hunger by matching food that would otherwise be wasted to nonprofits and community organizations throughout eastern Massachusetts who need it. Minuteman's fit into that by helping to take some of this rescued food and prepare it into really wonderful meals that we distribute to our recipient agencies, and those recipient agencies get them to food insecure individuals who are really happy to get them.
At a time when food insecurity is rising, especially in the midst of a global pandemic, Minuteman Regional High School's culinary program provides a new partner for FoodLink in its goal to distribute food to those in need. This program also benefits culinary students who get the chance to refine their cooking skills while doing good.
I was approached by our culinary staff department with going into a much different school year. They were looking at ways to keep our culinary students engaged during the school day, and we decided to partner with FoodLink. We've been able to turn out over 800 meals a month, kind of changing our business model of not having our customers come into our restaurant. We're able to reach out to communities and help other families in need using the skills that our students have in the culinary arts department.
Minuteman High School has a fully functional student-run restaurant that's open to the public under normal circumstances, but because of the pandemic, no customers are allowed to dine in other than staff members. Anita Courier, the chef hospitality instructor, thought of the idea to utilize the students' skills to keep them academically productive for a greater cause.
We discovered our partnership over the last spring when we saw that this year was going to be a very different year. So we wanted to engage our students in something that was authentic and meaningful that helps them practice their skills. So we cook. FoodLink brings us food every Monday. They're recovered ingredients, and we kind of look at what that surprise box looks like. FoodLink comes and picks it up. So on Monday they bring us their recovered ingredients, and on that same day we give them 100 meals. So they take about 100 meals, and also the Lexington Food Pantry takes another 100 meals. So we do a minimum of 200 meals a week, but generally more.
The food is portioned out, prepared by students, and then packaged for FoodLink to pick up and distribute. Students produce 200 meals a week that get sent out to families in need and the local food pantry. Preparing food for families has become a major part of the culinary curriculum at Minuteman High.
I'd say more than half of what we're doing now is dedicated to FoodLink. And with the different ingredients that they're bringing us are things we might not have necessarily introduced to the students. If the students see a unique ingredient or something that FoodLink has donated to us, it's just a plus for them because it would normally be something we may not have thought of using. We're very happy to do it. We're humbled to do it because it's meaningful. It's it helps out the community quite a bit.
Charlie Schreiber, a sophomore at Minuteman High from Arlington, is grateful for the opportunity to continue to do what he loves.
It feels really great. I love cooking for other people. It's absolutely great. It's just the satisfaction that you get from hearing that people love something that you made, something that you did, and it was a really great partnership in my opinion. Because like we get the skills of cooking the food, and then the people obviously get the food themselves, and it was just a really great idea.
For the time being, Minuteman Regional High School is the only high school program that is partnered with FoodLink, blazing a trail for other culinary programs to follow.
It's been a great partnership. We get about, we directly take about 400 meals a month, and then we've brokered so that the Lexington Food Pantry gets another 400 meals. And this is just a really, the word I want to use in a way is wholesome partnership.
Since the start of the pandemic, FoodLink has distributed about 1.2 million pounds of food that reaches tens of thousands of families across the region. They hope the partnership with Minuteman High School will be just the first of many such collaborations. For ACMi News, I'm Anim Osmani.
And FoodLink just keeps on growing. The signature nonprofit in Arlington finally reached a milestone in its brief but very storied history. FoodLink officially found its new home on Summer Street after relocating several times in the span of only 9 years. The FoodLink Hub, as the new facility is called, was officially open for business. Again, here's Anim Osmani with that story.
From rescuing unsold bread from a Panera parking lot to distributing million pounds of salvaged fresh food to the community and beyond, it's been quite a journey. FoodLink has evolved from operating out of a rundown vehicle to now owning a new energy-efficient facility that enables a group of more than 250 volunteers and staff to rescue food and nourish the community.
So we've never been only Arlington, but our reach went further and further as we got more food and the need was brought to our attention. We're in many, many more communities than we used to be, and we're receiving food from many more places than we did before.
The new site, located at 108 Summer Street, has increased storage space, expanded refrigeration capacities, a loading dock for the vehicles, and an indoor sorting space. The facility is also built and designed to reduce their impact on the environment. Although still in progress, the site has a VRF HVAC system for climate control, complemented by high R-value insulation and windows. The building was also constructed with repurposed materials and supplies. Soon, solar panels will be installed to offset the energy use of the refrigeration.
And at some point, that's going to house the materials to connect to solar panels that we intend to have on the roof. This was a cement block building, so there was no insulation, they were old windows, and there was nothing energy efficient about a cement block building.
Deanne DuPont and Julie Kramer credit the rapid growth and outreach to their dedicated volunteers and everyone who has helped them along the way.
We could not do what we do without our volunteers, and they are a key part of FoodLink. And they are often the front line, meeting with the grocers or the recipient agencies, so they're able to communicate our values, our ethos, when they collect and distribute food. And so I cannot say enough about our volunteers. We believe we have the best volunteers. And then our staff are just incredible, because we have data from the beginning that we can demonstrate the growth, including like the number of partnerships we had with recipient agencies, donors. And this is all about relationships. That's what FoodLink is all about, relationships.
The building won't be fully completed until 2025. FoodLink will strategically grow their operations to continue their mission to divert million pounds of food from being wasted to preferably our tummies. For ACMi News, I'm Anim Osmani.
Now let's fast forward to mid-May. The pandemic changed how college commencements were conducted in the year 2021. You may recall in 2020, many graduation ceremonies were simply canceled. But the story was different this year. We took a look at how Boston College's class of 2021 celebrated their very special day. ACMi News correspondent and member of the graduating class, Isabel Laturst, was our guide.
Here on Linden Lane, BC seniors take a walk down memory lane as they prepare for their in-person graduation. Set in front of a classic Boston College backdrop, seniors pose for portraits to celebrate their last days before graduation. Boston College representatives released a statement saying that the May 24th graduation will be held in Alumni Stadium. According to the updated COVID-19 guidelines, the stadium can safely hold around 11,000 people, or 25% of its usual capacity. Each graduating senior is allowed to invite 2 guests to campus for commencement. After a year of canceled traditions, the school's plan for an in-person commencement ceremony comes as a welcome surprise for BC seniors.
I'm very excited. It was a big question mark for a while because last year didn't get one, and we haven't really been getting many activities to do as seniors, so being able to have a graduation is really, really nice.
After this year of just everything being different and kind of crazy, it's nice that we have one normal-ish event.
The ceremony will still look a bit different from years past. Everyone in attendance must register ahead of time, and they are required to wear masks. The 2-guest limit also means that some family members are unable to attend the ceremony.
Both my parents and my brother are coming. My brother can't go because of the guest limit, but my parents will be there.
I think it'll be as close to normal as we can make it. I know all of my entire family wanted to come out for graduation, so that's been a plan for 4 years. So that's not going to feel normal.
Not the graduation we imagined for sure, but I'm just so grateful that my parents are able to be there and we get something, unlike, the class of 2020.
Boston College's graduation is just another sign of celebrations and traditions coming back into the forefront of our lives. For ACMi News, I'm Isabella Durst.
And speaking about things ever so slowly coming back to the forefront of our lives, let's spring ahead now to late summer, when finally, a show was staged at the Regent Theater after a new 2-year halt because of COVID-19. The Regent was going to stage the legendary music from Jesus Christ Superstar, featuring its principal players, Ted Neely and Yvonne Elliman, in the spring of 2020. You may recall, if you're young at heart, that both went on to superstardom with the play and the widely released movie way back when in 1973. And both, of course, had their share of solo hits ever since the late 1960s. But then in April of 2020, COVID had taken its toll, and the Regent ultimately had to stop the music altogether and shut down. But in mid-September 2021, Neely and Yvonne Elliman were in Arlington playing at the Regent in a show called, aptly enough, Superstars in Concert, with a screening of the movie Jesus Christ Superstar to show right after their live performance. I spoke with Regent Theater owner and manager Leland Stein and the star of the show, Ted Neely, and both say after 18 months of waiting, their prayers were finally answered.
I think it was Easter, like early April of 2020, postponed several times, and it's really great, and it's a very positive thing that we're actually doing this, because there was a time when we were wondering whether we could ever really get it done, because there's so much involved with producing and presenting these particular concerts.
When we did the first Broadway show in 1971, it was the world premiere of the Superstars of show. We didn't know anybody would come. From that day forward, it's been fans all over the world. I just finished before the pandemic chased us out in Italy. I was in Europe for 5.5 years doing this. It was supposed to be a 6-week run. 5.5 years. Pandemic hit. We'd be there right now if it hadn't hit us, you see. So, and there's never been one performance that wasn't completely packed. No matter what, in Europe, we're playing 10,000-seat arenas.
We are adhering to the Arlington Board of Health's mandate, the mask mandate for indoor public venues, or as in the case of us, an indoor private space that welcomes the public. So masks are required at all times unless people are in the act actively eating or drinking.
It is such a reward. I'm telling you, Yvonne and I are having such a great time just rehearsing here. It's just, we actually see people. We're not doing digital things. We've been rehearsing on the phone. She's from Hawaii, I'm from Los Angeles, and then here. So that's how we rehearsed until this Tuesday. We first met the band here, on Tuesday, you see. So people.
Stein says it's nice to see things ever so slowly getting back to so-called normal. We can only hope that this pandemic will be in the rearview mirror come 2022. All right, on to the autumn of 2021, when volunteers from the Arlington Human Rights Commission celebrated Indigenous Peoples Day in Newton in mid-October for the Indigenous Peoples Day ceremony and celebration at Albemarle Field. This was the largest Indigenous Peoples Day event in this area. It was an outdoor, family-oriented celebration of Indigenous culture, art, and history. History that goes far back, centuries before Christopher Columbus was even born. and many people from Arlington participated in this year's event. This inaugural yearly celebration featured over 40 artists, performers, speakers, vendors, and community organizations. And it was open to all residents of neighboring communities and towns, including right here in Arlington.
This is the first time Arlington is commemorating Indigenous Peoples Day. We first got involved with Native American activists maybe a year or two back, and we tried to work on a whole process whereby we actually passed the bylaws to be able to replace the holiday from Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. So we presented to the select board earlier this year, at the beginning of this year, and then we scheduled an article which was voted upon by a town meeting in April of this year and was overwhelmingly passed. So we're very glad to have worked with a lot of Native American activists to get that done in Arlington.
This colorful and meaningful event made time for celebrating ancient cultures and the tribal nations from Canada all the way to the tip of South America. And it's one step toward rewriting our own U.S. history. ACMi News was there. Here now are the sights and the sounds of Indigenous Peoples Day in October 2021.
My connection to it is that I am indigenous from the Western Hemisphere.
Why is it so important to expunge Columbus Day and pronounce Indigenous Peoples Day? What I learned in my history class was that Columbus discovered America and that was it.
Exactly. Well, the reality is that we, the Taino people, were the ones who discovered Columbus, and we end up being just a footnote in history. And that is one of the reasons why it's important for us to put ourselves in the forefront and tell the real story. The story is told by the victor. It is his story, after all, you know. But the victims of this, what we call the Holocaust, you know, are unknown. Most people don't know who the Taino were back then, who the Taino are today. We were declared extinct, and the reason for the extinction comes from many different avenues. It's not one thing that brought us to this extinction narrative. But we were declared extinct, and it wasn't until the late 90s when, you know, DNA studies and things of that nature, severe, intense research brought us back to the forefront.
Because of public education, because of how our students are actually treated within classrooms, our students are going to classrooms, they're standing up for the stories and the knowledge that they've learned in homes. They're hearing these stories about Columbus. They're hearing the stories about the land that they're on. And they're actually standing up and saying, no, this is not what I was taught by my grandmother. This is not what I was taught by my mom. And sometimes they're often disciplined for that. And so in making this change from Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day, we're actually affirming knowledge that's taught in the homes and being stood up for by our students and by our elders as well.
I think Americans, especially white America, considers history to be Ben Franklin, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and everything else. Your history goes back thousands of years.
Yes, and I am a guest on these lands. I am from the Tunica Biloxi tribe of Louisiana. Our figures, our landscape is completely different from where we are right now on the homelands of the Massachusetts, the Nipmuc, the Wampanoag. But at the same time, we have a very shared history of cultivating all of the lands that have been here since time immemorial. So, you know, we're looking at this story of 500, 200 years standing up against millennia. And you're actually seeing the people that have been here for all this time. That story is starting to come forward once and more.
We all learned that, didn't we? We all learned this BS. We learned lies, unfortunately, and we have to ask ourselves a question like, who is writing these textbooks? Who is promoting this sort of propaganda? And the answer is white supremacy. I know it's hard to hear, but that is the truth of it. And my emotional connection is that I want to end that. I want to decolonize. I want to end white supremacy. I'm an advocate and an ally, and I firmly believe that returning the land back to original land owners, to original land stewards, and working working towards healing as justice and justice as healing, that's my emotional tie. And it starts with letting Indigenous people lead, even Indigenous Black and people of color leading. So that's my emotional tie. I'm here as an ally. I'm here to stand behind, support, uplift, respect, honor.
Since we're the Indigenous people, sometimes we come out to make ourselves seen and let people know we still exist. Many times people think we're in the history books, but we don't live in the present day, but we do. We have a long history.
One thing you have to understand is that Native American, Indigenous peoples' history started here first, and everything else. You can't have American history without Indigenous peoples, and that is a fact. So for people to know and not be listening to the sanitized truths or they deem as truths, the sanitized history of America, they need to look at the true history and see the role that they played in that. And then they'll see that the Native people have been here and continue to be here. And we're the Narragansett, but there's many tribes across this country where where we live and have communities and have our own forms of government and exist and flourish today,
The weather was beautiful on Indigenous Peoples Day, as you just saw, but just a few days later after that, Arlington was belted with a very strong, very obnoxious New England nor'easter. The town of Arlington wanted to show off the completion of Phase 1 of the Whittemore Park reopening, for instance. But the planned ceremony was called off and rescheduled for some time in the spring of 2022. ACMi News was able to visit Whittemore Park before that weather took a serious downturn. And even the harsh weather we endured could not dampen the new look of the beautiful work Phase 1 of the Whittemore Park project managed to accomplish. Town leaders encourage residents to visit and enjoy what Phase 1 has to offer at the Arlington Center site in front of the Jefferson Cutter House when the weather becomes a little bit more cooperative. The major project planning process began 4 years ago and concluded in August of 2018, which resulted in a design that transforms the small green space at the corner of Mass Ave and Mystic Street into a focal point for recreation and civic functions, as well as a place to appreciate Arlington's cultural heritage.
And I really invite anybody to go down and take a look. Beautiful new lawn, new plantings, new pathways, new benches, new lighting, refurbished train tracks, really creating a more accessible, welcoming, comfortable space for people to gather right in the center of town. I know there's some photos that will be available. I walked by. It's beautiful. I mean, it really is beautiful. And there's more to come in the future with phases 2 and 3, which will further improve accessibility around the Whittemore Robbins House. But this Phase 1 is really going to provide an improvement in Arlington Center. And I think residents will really like what they see being able to check that out.
Now, Phase 2 is set to begin in the spring of 2022. It'll be increasing the pathway between Mystic Street and the Jefferson Cutter House. There will also be renovation of the side gardens on both sides. Some will be replaced, some will stay. There will be upgraded seating and just simply more accessibility. Now, Phase 2 is being funded by the town of Arlington and the Community Development Block Grant Program. According to the town website, town officials hope to stage a celebratory event after Phase 2 is complete in 2022. And we look forward to the 2022 ceremony. Meantime, the Arlington Commission for Arts and Culture staged an outdoor celebration at the Fox Library October 31st, kicking off a new public art project which focuses solely on climate change. Now, this event recognized the achievements of 12 Arlington High School interns who created an art project to spark environmental activism. They spent their entire summer of 2021 working on several markers for the so-called Remembrance of Climate Futures Arlington. That's a project that calls attention to the impact of climate change throughout New England and indeed the globe, and explores ideas to reverse the process. After much research, the students developed 18 short-term markers which were then wheat pasted to the outside walls of the library.
I'm not here because I know climate change will take things away from me. I'm here because I know when the bike path near Alewife is submerged, thousands of people will donate money and time to build a new elevated path. There's a word for that. That word is resilience. When I look at that wall and I see something I don't like, I try not to think about what I'm losing. Instead, I think about the positive change those disturbances will produce because our community is resilient. I hope that we can all be resilient together. The project itself couldn't have been produced without the help of many groups and individuals. Their time and dedication made this project what it is today. Thank you.
You could still see the students' work posted on the exterior library walls if you wish. And next spring, they hope to complete a longer-term version of the project with aluminum markers scattered around Arlington. For more information, just go to artsarlington.org. All right, now, one Arlington company is doing something to battle climate change. Intelligent Labor and Moving along Beck Road just received the first electric box truck in the state of Massachusetts through a program which encourages these kind of vehicles. And the electricity comes from the sun. There are solar panels on the roof of the company's warehouse. Intelligent Labor's CEO says instead of pledging to reverse climate change, the time for action, in his opinion, is now. Ezekiel Wheeler is the CEO of Intelligent Labor and Moving along Beck Road. He made history of sorts recently, purchasing the first electric box truck in the state of Massachusetts. He is the first, and for Wheeler, he hopes he's certainly not the last.
It's an electric truck, so it's powered by batteries and electric motor. There's no gas engine or diesel in it at all. It's charged here at our warehouse, and at our warehouse we have approximately 40-something thousand kilowatts of solar here, so it's charged off of that generation. We were the first to cash in on the More EV program, which is a state rebate program to incentivize people to buy electric trucks, and we were the first people to register for the incentive and the first to cash it in.
As you know, the president's overseas right now talking about climate change. People have been talking about climate change forever. It used to be called global warming, and somehow climate change became the catchphrase of the day. We've been talking about this now for 30 years.
I'm a little shocked and offended that I'm the first in Massachusetts that I've been. We only have 6 trucks, so it's a solid, 16% of our fleet. We have some electric cars too, but the fact that Coca-Cola, they may have a couple trucks, but it's nothing compared to even the percentage that we have. Same with Staples, et cetera. They're all working on it, but they're not really. They're trying it out. They're testing it. And I think it's time to do something. It's instead of promises, maybe more deliveries.
How has it exceeded expectations?
I expected this to be sort of overly teched up, but it's really not. It's it has a steering wheel and it's got pedals. It's not weird. There's no computer trying to tell you what to do. You just go drive it.
Wheeler says in colonial times, people found ways to make their own form of fuel, and he's hoping that after centuries of fossil fuel dependency, humankind will go from this and revert back to this.
Well, I think it's important to do something. Talking about it is important to build awareness, but at a certain point you need to stop building awareness and start solving the problem.
For ACMi News, I'm Jeff Barnes. Wheeler says the major difference he's noticed with this vehicle is just how quiet it is. The truck has a range of 130 miles per charge, and it takes as little as just 6 hours to power up that box truck. All right, on to our next story now. For the first time in 2 years, Arlington's Veterans Day Parade and Ceremony was held in person on November the 11th along Mass Ave. You may recall last year, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the ceremony was broadcast by ACMi. But on November 11th of this year, everything changed. We were there to cover this year's event, which salutes our men and women in uniform. A slow procession of veterans, volunteers, and dignitaries slowly marched from Adams Street and down along Mass Avenue to the Central Fire Station to pay tribute to all Americans who work night and day to preserve our way of life. Jeff Chunglo, Arlington's Director of Veteran Services, was pleased with the overwhelming crowd at the fire station on November the 11th, and he says that this hallowed ground adjacent to the fire station will forever be preserved and even upgraded for all of us to remember and to say thank you to all our U.S. veterans.
It's great to finally be back in person again for Veterans Day. I'm really looking forward to it. We have a great day here. It's been long overdue, and I do have some special announcements that I'll be making during the ceremony. And so I'll give you a little preview now. At the Select Board meeting this past Monday, the board approved that the land adjacent to the fire station here, all the way up to the Civil War Memorial, will be designated, is now designated as Arlington's Veterans Memorial Park. So we'll begin preparations and plans to contact someone for renderings, and we'll be able to put that together and review it with the Veterans Council, and then begin our series of open meetings.
For those servicemen and women who are with us today, either here in person or watching at home through ACMi, I want to thank you for your service to the United States. It is that service that provides us with our freedoms today.
First of all, the Select Board made a very important decision regarding the ground we're standing on right now.
Yeah, Monday night, Jeff Chunglo came before us with the Veterans Council with a request to rename this Arlington's Veteran Memorial Park, and we were happy to do it. This is, in our view, the appropriate place to have a memorial to our veterans and to honor our veterans through the honor roll. And as you can see here today, the property, the honor roll was created in 1999. The area is in need of upgrades, and it really needs to be a more appropriate, some work to make it a more appropriate setting to honor our veterans. We're happy to support that.
I feel like we should be thinking about our veterans and being thankful for our veterans and caring for our veterans every day. But this is a day once a year, along with Memorial Day, where we can really individually and especially thank our veterans for their service. And I hope today specifically is a jumping off point for honoring them even more wholly via a development of this park that's right behind us right now into an even more dedicated and improved Veterans Memorial Park.
I served in Iraq in 2009, 2010. I'm currently serving in the Mass National Guard. I'm on orders providing COVID support for the existing missions that involves COVID support.
Among a very unusual battle we've been fighting now for almost 2 years. What does Veterans Day mean to you? There are a lot of sales out there, a lot of people selling discount mattresses and cars and things like that. Veterans Day means a heck of a lot more than that, especially to someone like yourself who's dedicated to the military.
Thank you, yes. I don't really follow all that free stuff. It's good to be able to celebrate Veterans Day again. We haven't been able to do it for a couple of years. What it means to me, it means an opportunity to be thankful for the sacrifices and the ultimate sacrifices that soldiers, sailors, and Marines have made throughout the years.
This holiday was originally known as Armistice Day, a holiday set aside right after World War I to recognize those who fought in the so-called Great War, the war to end all wars. This according to the U.S. Department of Veterans Services. Its origin dates back to the Armistice, a temporary end to all hostilities between the Allied nations and Germany. And the armistice was signed in France on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. Now, just a few decades later, in 1954, just 1 year after the Korean War and less than a decade after World War II, it became known as Veterans Day. This came about as a result of several service organizations, veterans service organizations, approached Congress and urged them to encompass and include all U.S. veterans involved in wars. An Arlington tradition once again taking place in person on a beautiful fall day. A time to forget our own problems we have in our own daily lives and give thanks to a very special kind of American who exhibits a never-ending burden and who has a love for country unlike any other. Arlington's Director of Veteran Services, Jeff Chunglo, says for many people, Veterans Day is a day off. And of course, there are many Veterans Day sales to take advantage of. But it's just nice to take a few minutes out of your day to think of those people who put their lives on the line each and every day so that we can enjoy the freedoms that we have. Actually, every day should be Veterans Day. Well, that's it for this New Year's look back at the year 2021. And of course, we will be there for all the major townwide events that will undoubtedly unfold in 2022. We want to wish you and your loved ones a very happy and very healthy new year. Please stay safe, and we will be seeing you in the new year 2022. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Jeff Barnes. Good night.
You can always check out our latest segments and newscasts on the web at acmi.tv/news. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ACMi News. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. You'll find us at youtube.com/ACMi News. If you have any news tips for us or wish to become a citizen journalist, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at news@acmi.tv or stop by ACMI Studio A at 85 Park Avenue.